Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today, I'm here with Kevin Steuer. We will walk you through StockTA and introduce the main tools and pages to help you use it more effectively in your trading. For those who rely on technical analysis in their trading, StockTA is really a must, and you will find out why very shortly. Hello, Kevin. Good day.
Hi, Monir. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we will discuss many points. So could you please share your screen first just to illustrate? Let's start by giving the viewers a general overview, giving them just general information about the website and its background.
Yeah, so it was started in 1999. I'm not the original owner. I bought it from the original owner in May of 2024, and we went back through with modern day AI and we redid the algorithm to make it more accurate. And we have 161 million rows of code, and we cover over 150,000 tickers across different exchanges across the globe.
Well, very interesting, and I'm sure you used it before you actually bought it, so it shows how useful it is. So let me know a bit more about the layout. I mean,
Yeah, to your
information.
previous point, I was a user for 5 years before I bought the site, and it's improved my trading tremendously. And I check it and use it every day. And we have 30,000 users across the globe who are very loyal. They also use it every day and they love the site.
Yeah, if you could tell me about the colors here that I'm seeing.
Yes. So here's the main layout for the page. So anything in red is bearish, anything in green is bullish, and anything in orange is neutral. So we have laid out some of the major ETF that cover, some of the major markets like SPY, QQQ, Dow, DIA, and then we have some of the more popular stocks that our users like to check. So that's all right on the main screen, and you can click on them and it'll pull up all their information.
Okay, and if a user would like to search for a specific stock, that's easily doable, right?
Yep, it's up top here in the main search bar.
Okay, and Kevin, how often does the data update?
Yeah, so it is not intraday. We wait until the end of the market when it closes. We measure and map all the price movements throughout the day, but we wait until 5 o'clock when all the dust settles. We pull the data from a feed, it runs through the machine, and it does all its analysis. And sometime between 5:30 and 6, depending on how volatile the market is that day, it'll publish the trend scores and the Confluence scores for the next trading day.
That's very useful, but if you could tell me a bit more about the trend score and confluence scores. Let's look at, for example, Apple here.
Yep.
What does this tell us, all the information here?
Yep. Apple right now is a neutral trend score. And what we do is we have three different timeframes that we measure: short, intermediate, and long. And the machine adds all that up and produces a trend score. So that changes every day for all the different timeframes that we measure and the overall score. So +1 is maximum bullish, and -1 is maximum bearish. So something around 0 or close to it will give you a neutral score. And our timeframes are: short is 30 days or less, intermediate is 30 to 60 days, and then long is 120 days. So it really caters to different kind of traders. If you're short term or long term or a swing trader, you can look at the different trend scores for what time period you want to get a better understanding of how the stock is performing.
That's very helpful. I'm seeing also on the left side support and resistance levels with confluence numbers. Could you please explain those a bit more?
Yeah, so we use a Confluence system, which is pretty unique. I know other firms use it, but they don't publish it for free. So that's a big value add for our users. So Confluence is just a fancy term to mean where things meet. So we have all these different studies on the left side. So we have EMA, MACD, RSI, TDD, Fibonacci, trends, stochastics. We do all these different technical studies, and the machine runs it through the system. And what it does is it spits out a Confluence system of where all these technical studies interact. And the higher the Confluence score, kind of the more significant that price point is. That could be a swing point, pivot point, however, you use it for your trading. But basically, the more the studies come together, kind of the better a picture you can get of whether a stock's going up or down. And it's really hard for a human eye to detect that. Like even very seasoned traders would have a hard time doing all this different stuff. And if they did by hand, it would take them a long time. So the machine does it for you. It shoots out very clear numbers along with the chart, along with a trend score. And how Confluence works is 1 to 5 is small, or it could be light resistance or light support. So if it's red, it's resistance. If it's green, it's support. So small would be 1 to 5, medium would be 6 to 15, and then large or heavy resistance would be anything over 15. So if you look at Apple here, it closed at 200.42. It has heavy resistance at 206.14, and that's a 29 Confluence, which is very high for a major stock. And that's why the stock is currently in neutral. Now, if the market moves and has a big day today because of tariff news or a trade deal or whatever happens, if it breaks above that resistance point, that resistance will then become support, and this trend score will then most likely change. It really depends on how the machine reads it. So I don't want to predict what it'll do, but if it closes above this, the short term could flip to bullish. So that could be a signal that you want to be long it. But if short term trading this, if it's stuck below 206, I don't want to put, maybe you start to build a small position, but you don't want this to be a huge position because it could fail at this resistance multiple times before it breaks through. Like, you have different technical people will say, hey, it's like the first and second attempt usually fails through major resistance, but on that third attempt, it might clear it and then it becomes major support. So that's something, our users use and I use with my own trading to keep an eye on. I watch where the Confluence numbers are, because that's a huge part of my trading.
And this really simplifies things and helps you isolate the signal from the noise. I can see that based on the Confluence numbers, which is very useful. Let's say, Kevin, I want to build a watch list. How can I do
Yep.
that?
Yep. So you need to be signed in up here. So I'm currently signed in. You go down here and you click on watch list, and in this site a lot. So I have a lot of different themes. So you hit add a new portfolio. So I created one this morning for royalty, and it'll go to that. And then you hit add a symbol. So you can type in a symbol. So I'm going to type in Franco Nevada, which is FNV, and add to watch list. And you click here to continue. And now it's popped up here, and it gives you what its recent close was when you entered it, what the date was that you entered it, and then the same trend scores. And then you can also click on the stock and it'll bring you, as if you searched it. But it's a really easy way if you're watching, gold or silver miners or crypto stocks or cybersecurity stocks, or you're looking at different, you could be looking at different ETFs from countries in Europe or South America. You can really build the watch list however you want to. And then when you go through the watch list, you can just click and see, okay, here's what's looking good in silver. Here's what looks good in gold. Here are the countries in Europe that are breaking out. Like, it really, I think, does a really good job simplifying and helping you just stay organized.
Absolutely, and really shorten the time you need to analyze the markets. Which also brings me to my next question, which is about the screener, because this also helps you cut the time you need to look at the market. How does the screener work?
Yep. So that's just above the watch list on the left side. You go to stock screen, and you can do it any way you want with these options, depending on how you trade. But you can click on, I want something that looks bullish overall in the short term. And, 0.72 is a very high score, because we said +1 is the highest something can go. And you can just search through all these different stocks. Now, some of these have no volume because they might be trading on some minor or, some overseas exchanges. But if you look for something that has, like, TMC has a lot of volume and a really high trend score, so that would be something like, ideally you want to get into that before the trend score flips to really high. So the machine caught the breakout around here. So you'd want to be in this, early when it flips from neutral to bullish, or when the bullish score is lower, you want to help ride it up. So you don't necessarily want to chase something here, like the size at 75 almost. And if you look at the chart, you want Confluence where there's heavy support on something that's long, and there's not really much for a heavy Confluence. So this jumped up and moved really quick. But if you, use the screener to catch this when it first flipped and went to bullish before went to very bullish, this is a really nice gain for, whoever's been trading this for the past, less than a month.
Very nice. So I imagine that the trend score and the confluence numbers work in tandem. Am I right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, they work together to give you kind of an overall picture of, I use it if I get long something and it flips to bullish and it starts to run up like this would. I would start to sell some of my position once the chart starts to get stretched to lock in some gains. And then I would look to see if it pulled back to a major support level. So like Google has recently like run up a little bit and it's at 172.36. It's still bullish. It doesn't have huge overhead resistance scores, which is nice. But if you look, it has a medium confluence at 170, medium confluence at 165, medium confluence at 158. So there's a good amount of support built into that. So if I really wanted to, start a position in Google or add to my position in Google, if I was long, I would check the trend scores daily to see if the trend score is increasing or decreasing, because that will follow the price movement. And if the trend score is increasing and it pulls back to major support, or the trend score is staying similar and it pulls back to major support, that could be a really good buying opportunity, because that would be a buyable dip. You know how people say, oh, I bought the dip. Well, this is a way for people to see numerically like where exactly a dip is instead of guessing. So you definitely have to, you have to know how to read and use the system and interpret the numbers. But again, this is a good example of numbers over narrative. And if you stay on the right side of the trend and you buy when it pulls back to a good amount of support, that could be a great entry point.
Nice, nice. To me, they work more like a compass and a map together. So it's really a great tool. Let's zoom out a bit and look at different sectors. If I like to look at different sectors and their performance, how do I do that?
Yeah. So if you go to the sector page on the left, this is some of the major sectors and then some gold and silver, because we have a lot of users who focus on that. But these are all the different sectors that Spider offers. So you can look at energy as XLE, which is bearish. XLC is communications. You have XLK, which is tech. You have real estate. XLF is financials. So you can really get a good, I check this is the first thing I check every morning after the main pages. I just kind of want to get a macro overview, and you can kind of get a far out picture of like, okay, here's what's working, here's what isn't working. And, if you find something that has a really good, bullish score and is trending up, there's not really one here with a high trend score. But if you clicked on consumer discretionary, you can see, to your point, map and compass, you can see where, heavy support is. And if you think this is breaking out, like I trade a lot of ETFs, but if I find a sector that I like that I think is breaking out, then I figure out, hey, what are the top 10 holdings in the XLY? So one of those is Tesla, because I know I've traded it in the past. And then I look at the top 10 holdings or the top 5 holdings of the XLY. And if I really want to press my bet and think that this is a sector that could break out, I could buy the ETF to give me diversification, but then I could pull up the individual charts of, say like I can pull up Tesla right here and see where it's at. So Tesla has been on a tear lately, and you can see where support and resistance is. So you can use, the sector section as a macro view. You can find an ETF that's trending bullish. And then if you really want to press your bet, you can do a little more research, find out what the top holdings are on that ETF, because those top holdings will drive the ETF price. So they kind of work in tandem. So if you really find something like XOY, you think of Tesla, XLK could be Microsoft, Google, Meta, you got to just kind of do a little bit of homework, but it's a really good way to find what sectors are working or what aren't working, and then help you figure out which individual companies to get in and out of based off of that.
I really like how this fits different styles of trading. So even with different strategies, you can still use this tool, and it will give you very useful information. Thank you very much, Kevin, for explaining all of this. For our viewers who still have questions, please post them in the comment section below, and we will get back to you with answers. We hope you find this tool useful, and until next time, thank you so much.